Remco Evenepoel, we've been hard on him. We've been doubting him. If you really stop and think for a moment, he's now in the club of riders who have won stages in all 3 Grand Tours. He's still only 24 years old, and today was his 56th victory as a professional.
Jeez.
Not being a sprinter.
Yeah.
That's just mind-blowing if you think about this.
Right.
And the races he's winning are big races.
He could retire today at 24, and it's an outstanding career.
Right now, there are not 5 riders in the peloton who have that palmarès.
Hello and welcome to JB Squared. This is stage 7 of the 2024 Tour de France. And we got a good look at the time trial today. We'll get into that pretty deep here in a second, but thank you to Ketone IQ for sponsoring JB Squared, being our title sponsor for this Tour de France. And a reminder that you can get 30% off your first subscription order of Ketone IQ and a free 6-pack if you use the link ketone.com/themove. Okay, let's jump right into the time trial and what you saw. Because I was thinking about when we did the preview show, Johan, and you had that graphic behind you, and we were debating whether there was the big 3 or the big 4, right? Mm-hmm. Do we include Remco or do we just have the big 3? Now it's kind of shifting to where maybe Remco is part of the big 3 and maybe Roglic is the 4th. I don't know.
Well, they're definitely there, the big 4. They're in first, second, and third and fourth position. So already after 7 days, I think that says a lot.
And likely to finish. We don't know what order, but do you think let's assume everyone stays healthy and upright. Do you think this will be?
We'll see. There's a lot will happen in this Tour de France still. We're only 7 days in. We had 1 mountain stage, 1 time trial, but it's, of course, it is a reflection of where everybody's at. Some guys may be getting a little bit better. Some guys may fade away a little bit, but it's definitely going to be those 4. And then you have, guys like Ayuso, Almeida, Carlos Rodriguez, Matteo Jorgensen. But that's already like between 5th and 10th. That's that battle. Maybe one of them can get up there. But, we've all said, and I include myself, I said, we should not put too much pressure, not expect too much about Remco Evenepoel in his first tour. He for sure has high expectations himself, rightfully so. He's an ambitious guy. He's won a Grand Tour already. He's won the Vuelta. World champion on the road and in the time trial, plus a lot of other races, Liège, San Sebastian, you name it.
And he's still in the white jersey. Think about that.
He's still in the white jersey. But coming back on his ambitions and the expectations that we should have, I think, and especially being Remco Evenepoel in Belgium it's not easy. Mm-hmm. Straight away, after his performance, I would say on stage 2 already. On stage 2, he, on San Luca, he came back to Pogacar and he was strong in the final, and it was straight away, okay, Remco goes for the podium. That's a possibility, but let's give him some time, relax. He's discovering the Tour de France. What's for sure, JB, is that he's in great shape.
Mm-hmm. When they showed him in the post race, when you see everything off of them, the helmet and all that, I could see a very big difference in his physique. I know we talked about it earlier in the week, but yeah, he looks so much lighter. His face is leaned out. Yeah. And then the question mark was like, when you lose weight, do you lose power?
Obviously today that was not the case. He's obviously, he's a specialist time trialist. That's his preferred discipline, right? But he's an all-rounder. He can climb. He can, he can go on short climbs. He can time trial. He's an all-rounder. He has the qualities of a Grand Tour rider, but it's a different rider now than in the Dauphiné, for example. In the Dauphiné, we saw he won the time trial also, which shows that that's obviously his specialty. But then on the climbs, he was struggling, and those were not the high mountains. So for the moment, on stage 2 and on stage 4, Remco Evenepoel has shown that he is in tremendous shape, and that for the moment he is overall he's a second position now. But like on the Galibier, he was the third best rider. He was the third guy on top, and then he came back to Jonas in the downhill of the Galibier. So I think his Tour de France has started really, really well. The question mark is now, okay, will he be consistent, and will he be able to perform in the high mountains when it's really big mountain stages? I would say the Remco Evenepoel I'm seeing now, I would say yes. But there's that question mark of, he has had those bad days sometimes in Grand Tours. I mean, when he won the Vuelta, he didn't really have any particular bad day. He had a day or two where he was a bit less, but he could properly defend his lead. And so it's already 2 years ago. He's 2 years older, 2 years more experienced, and obviously, due to circumstances, he has focused exclusively on the Tour after the crash in the Basque Country. And so it looks good. I mean, I personally don't think that he's up the level of Pogacar and Jonas, but he's just under there. Right now, he looks in best position to be on the podium. Of course, there's a guy called Primož Roglič there who
right.
Has a lot of experience, has won, Vuelta and Giro and be second in the Tour. So I was happy to see Primož today in third place. He did a good time trial. It's also his specialty. Let's not forget, he's the Olympic champion, time trialing. But usually, when you're a bit off, which was kind of showing on stage 2 and on stage 4, then usually we'd also see that in a time trial. And today he did a really good time trial also. So it's going to be a nice battle.
Yeah, I'm sure you caught Remco's post-race interview, but I'm very much paraphrasing what he said. But he said something to the effect of, Pogacar's on this other level. He didn't use those exact words. What he was saying was he has very realistic expectations, and that is a podium finish. He knows Pogacar's up here.
Yeah. I mean, it's the guy. Listen, the guy's a winner since the juniors. He's won everything. The guy does not consider anything else but first place. I remember when he was a new professional, his first year, he did the World Championships time trialing, and he was second in the World Championships in England, in Great Britain, and he was unhappy. He was there on the podium, and he was not like super excited to be a young guy who just got the silver medal. He was pissed that he didn't win. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that's the kind of guy, that's the kind of mindset. So I'm sure that, I mean, no matter how much pressure or expectations there are from, either sponsors or the fans or the media, and specifically in Belgium, Remco Evenepoel is a guy, he puts the pressure on himself. His expectations are so high that he's always under pressure, and that's what he needs to thrive. And so I can see now also that he feels great. He feels very comfortable on the bike, rides really well uphill, does really well in the downhill. And so you can see that he has the confidence, and he is right now in the mindset of finishing on the podium. I have absolutely no doubt about that.
Let's talk about Jonas now. We had Matteo Jorgensen on the show today, his teammate, and they all seem pretty happy at where things are at stage 7. Now, if you go back and you listen, just reminding people of his horrific accident, 6 weeks in intensive care, no racing. People had very tempered expectations about what he would be capable of, and he surprised everybody. And so I think you've pointed out, it looks like vibes are really good on the Visma team. And I got that sense today. They're happy where things are, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, if you look today, JB, at the GC after the time trial, and Jonas is 1 minute 15 behind the lead. Today, for example, he lost 25 seconds. I was predicting 45 seconds, and that was being conservative. I thought he would lose at least 45 seconds to Tadej Pogacar. He didn't. So I think he did a great time trial. We can't just go off that incredible performance he did last year in that time trial in Salange.
Yeah.
Normally, even a good Jonas Vingegaard, that would also be his place. He would lose to Remco, and he would maybe be 10, 15 seconds closer to Tadej, but on this kind of time trial. But I think this is an amazing performance for him. Only losing 25 seconds. After 7 stages, if before the Tour they would have said, okay, after 7 stages, including 1 big mountain stage and 1 time trial, you'll be 1 minute 15 off the lead. He would have said, okay, give me that contract. I'll sign it right now.
Yeah, and even Matteo said if you'd asked Jonas a month ago if he would even be able to start the Tour de France, he would have doubted that. So it's the whole thing's a miracle. It's really incredible. And not to jump around too much. But
now, having said that, JB, let's not. We need to be careful in the Tour de France. Okay, obviously he comes in, he gives it everything. The Tour's 3 weeks. Normally, he should kind of grow a little bit during the Tour, but it's also possible that all of a sudden, and especially if it's one hard day after the other, that all of a sudden he doesn't have it. That this is not an exact science. This is not mathematical. Depends how the body recovers. And so for the moment, it looks like Jonas is obviously not, and very understandable. It's not the Jonas of last year. He's a few percent less. And so the question is whether he can get those extra percentages during the Tour, or if Pogacar loses a few percentages, that's also a possibility. So, that's, the interesting part of the whole situation right now. I think we have a nice race in front of us.
Yeah. Now I'm jumping backwards. When you talk about it, oh yes, it's a 3-week race, and you've talked about how very hard it is in that last week. That's where Roglic's his experience could kick in, and I'm matching up Roglic and Remco now. And if Remco, lacking the experience, younger, cracks one of those days, you could see Roglic leapfrog him there in the standings. Yeah.
Well, as I said, I was pleasantly surprised about Primož's performance today. But honestly, I'm a bit worried after what I saw on stage 2 and 4. But you're right. He's a tough rider, and has a lot of experience and knows how to really manage and dosify his efforts. And he's up there. I think today was an important day. He's only 136 of the lead, which is not a bad situation either.
I know, and we spent a lot of time on this show talking about the skin suit issue. That you don't wear your own. The research that we had heard they had done on Visma said it could save a second a kilometer.
UAE also.
Yeah, in UAE, yes, and then also Remco had in the young jersey had to wear theirs. But then I'm looking at the average speeds. Okay, it was a 12-second difference between Remco and Tadej.
They were riding the same skin suit, so that's a zero. That's a zero operation,
Gotcha.
But you could say in theory, that both, but because for sure Remco also has a super fast skin suit, his personal team issued skin suit there. Even if the whole team has a certain fabric, for sure the world champion has a special fabric which is faster and custom made and really tailored to the last millimeter. And so you could in theory say if the data say that their skin suits are 25 seconds faster, then they would have been both 25 seconds faster than
yeah.
today.
The top two could have put more time in, quite a bit more time.
Yeah. I mean, that's all theory, JB. I mean, I've done so many tests in wind tunnels with, bike manufacturers and helmets and glasses and fabrics, and I've never come out of a time trial where all of these guys said that they had the fastest equipment.
Really?
So it's also, it's theory. They all say that they have the fastest, because, and then they have to sell a product also.
Yeah. And speaking of wind tunnels, that with the helmet that comes all the way down to their shoulders, do you think that will survive, or will
it
they
looks like it's the trend right now? I mean, the helmets are bigger. The helmets are bigger. And, if you really think about it, it kind of makes sense because I remember back in the days, the helmets, the time trial helmets were super aerodynamic, but they were narrow and they need to be like very close to your ears and then cover the space from your neck over your back. And now the data say different, that you need to have a bigger front and cut out the space to the shoulders, right? That kind of makes sense because you kind of penetrate better in the air. It's all about the part that hits the wind first, right? And then how that wind gets deviated from your body and your bike and your arms. And so obviously, if the data show and the science show that they all have bigger helmets, it's for a reason. They've done the tests, and that is one thing. And then secondly, if the rider believes in the theory, that's also huge, because if a rider gets on his bike and he says, yeah, I have the fastest helmet, it looks terrible, but it's fast. He's going to go fast. He's going to go fast.
There is that mindset of only putting on certain gear when you're racing. Like you don't train in it. Everything is just for racing, and it's a mindset thing. Yeah, and while we're talking helmets, I saw a couple we started working with Ecoy. I saw a couple of them out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, today was in the time trial. We had Victor Kampenaerts from Lotto Destiny in 5th, and Kevin Vauquelin of Arkea in 6th. And today they, for the first time, used their newly developed time trial helmet, which I've heard a lot of research and money and resources have gone into. And I mean, they're obviously two good time trialists, but you would not expect them to be there in 5th and 6th place. Those are two names that really you would not think, okay, they're going to be up there. So first of all, they're good bike riders. Secondly, they're in great shape, and great job from Ecoy to provide them with the best possible equipment.
And what were your looking again, mostly talking about those top four? What were your big takeaways today? Because we do have another time trial at the end on the last day, which they have not done since '86, and also different terrain on that time trial. So
no, it's completely different. The last time trial you can't compare. That's like, okay. It's hard. It's uphill, a lot of uphill, and it's the guy who has the most energy left. That's it. It doesn't matter if you're time trial specialist or not. You just if you're strong, you're going to be in front. Today is different. 25K, not super long, super fast. 52.5 kilometers average is the winning time. I mean, what we see, JB, is, I mean, this is also a trend that we see more and more. I mean, I don't know about Roglic, but I think the first 4 and even the first 5 were all on single chain rings. So just one chain ring in the front and huge big chain rings, a 58 or a 60. In the case of Visma, I've even seen riders with 62 chain ring in front. Only for to be able to have that straight chain line. So they have this big plate in the front, and then whenever they, I mean, I think they had 30 or 32 in the back, which normally you would not use in a time trial because the hill was, I mean, it was hard, but it was not super steep. So but they just have this huge chainring in the front, and they're in the middle on the cassette, mostly, except for the downhills. And I've done some research. We have these pictures here of Remco and Pogacar and Matteo Jorgensen. And even with a big chainring like that, people would say, "Oh wow, such a big plate!" They're for sure they're going huge gear and low RPM. I mean, if you look at, let me see where is it? If you look at Matteo Jorgensen, 103 RPM average over the time trial, 103. Tadej Pogacar, 102 average. And Remco 103. Wow. And these three guys were with either 58, 60 or 62 chain rings in the front. So it's not a matter. I mean, you don't have to go all the way to the right on the 13 or the 12 or the 11. In the case of SRAM, they ride with a 10. The matter is to get that chain line straight and have the least possible friction. That's
a fast cadence. What kind of? I remember people used to comment about Lance's cadence. What kind was his 100 plus?
It was sometimes between 95 and 105. It was super high.
Very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is super high. Super high.
Now I'm going to look at how many calories they burned every time because of you.
Well, I mean, little correction. I want to come back on that because I saw some comments, and I pulled out these stats yesterday very quickly. What I did see is that, first of all, there's a difference between the devices. I think yesterday we spoke about Jorgensen and Remco and Pogacar. Jorgensen and Remco are on Garmin, and Pogacar is on Wahoo. So that already makes a difference because it's the program and the software that calculates through an algorithm.
Right. Okay.
So another thing which we don't know is some riders, they all ride with power meters. Some riders don't ride with heart rate monitors. Now, if you have a device which does not register your heart rate, then the whole algorithm calculates it differently.
Right.
So, what I showed yesterday was absolutely not scientific.
Yeah, right. I get you. Because the same thing on Zwift. If you're wearing a heart rate, it gets more accurate data.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't know that. So.
But that's what's interesting about doing this. Like, you can look at information and come up with theories and then dig deeper into it. I mean, isn't that what you?
JB, I mean, this is how much of a geek I am. Today I did. I need to check because I didn't know we were going to talk about this. Today I did a 3-hour ride, and I usually I have a Garmin, but I also have a Wahoo. And I said, you know what? I'm going to check. So I connected both devices to my heart rate and my power.
Okay.
Here they are.
All right. I'm dying to hear what were the results.
And so I still need to check. I wanted to check the difference, but I didn't know we were going to talk about this.
No.
Well, I want to see the difference in the calculation with the algorithm of every single of the two different devices. So I had one on my bike and one in my pocket.
This is something to look forward to tomorrow. Yeah. No, I'm as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking like this is the mindset that probably made you such a good director. Let me remind people that you had 13 Grand Tour wins as a director. But if you're looking at everything everywhere and you see something and you come up with a theory and you test it, I mean, I thought by myself, you know what? I mean, they're saying this, they're saying that, let me just check it out myself. I mean, it doesn't matter how fast I went. I did 75 kilometers. I went 26 kilometers average, not a big deal, but hey, the kilojoules are the kilojoules. So that'll be interesting.
On one of the next shows, I'll come back on it.
Okay. One other interesting thing you noted, I don't know if we're going to spend a ton of time on this, but after looking at the GC after the time trial, UAE teammates Juan Ayuso and João Almeida are a second apart, sitting in 6th and 7th.
That's interesting. I still can't help but think that there's some I mean, I'm not going to say bad vibes, but there's something there that the attitude of Ayuso on the Galibier. I said it in the podcast. I didn't like it. He did his job ultimately, and he did it really well. But he had to be told to do it, And then Ayuso said, "Yes." I saw an interview yesterday. He said, but Almeida shouldn't have made it so obvious. He could have said it on the radio, and so he wasn't happy about that gesture. But now Almeida did a pretty good time trial, and Ayuso did an okay time trial, not very good. And now they're sitting fifth and sixth, 1 second apart. I wonder what the director is going to do with this and say. I personally think, and I'm saying this from a distance, right? I don't know the dynamics within the team, but I can't help but think that Juan Ayuso is a protege of the sports manager, Machin, and that, in my opinion, I don't know. And this is just me thinking out loud without having any information, but the way I see him interact with the riders, sometimes you need to make radical decisions, which will leave people unhappy. In this case, it's very simple. Pogacar is the leader. There's absolutely no place for personal ambitions. If you obtain it through circumstances, fine, perfect. We can even try to use it in our advantage at some point in the second week. But this is always secondary. First of all, you do your job as good as you can, Yeah. And that's, in my opinion, and I've said this already before a few times, at UAE, the decisions from the car are not always the best. And then on top of that, you have a rider like Tadej Pogacar, who's super strong, but from what I've been told, is also a super nice guy, and is not the kind of person who would impose his will or his wishes. And in that case, you need a guy who just said, "Hey guys, listen, this is the way it is. Just now forget about all this bullshit and do your job." To all the other guys. I think that's lacking. So we'll see.
Maybe because it's like when you say it's lacking, I'm trying to think of who all is on their team, and you can probably name them off the top of your head. But I'm thinking of having someone like a Geraint Thomas on the team, someone who's more of a veteran boss who comes in and helps as a teammate to squash those problems. Yeah. Do they have anyone like that?
In my opinion, it should be Adam Yates.
There you go.
Adam Yates is, first of all, listen, he was third last year, and he killed himself for Pogacar, and he was third. Now he already, in the first mountain stage, he sacrificed himself earlier because he was needed at that time. And he was very clear in his interviews. He said, "Hey, we're here for Tadej, whatever else doesn't matter." Doesn't seem to me like it's also the kind of character who said, "Hey guys, come on, enough of this. Let's just friggin' do our job and bring it home." But it should come from the team management.
Yeah,
this kind of
coming from the top down, yeah. Right? I'm trying to think in my head of scenario. You were saying maybe they can use Ayuso or Almeida later. And I'm trying to think, I'm just, here's a hypothetical, is the people trying to defend their position on the podium, Remco, Vingegaard, potentially Primoz, if they're attacking, they could get their teams to do some work for UAE. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but whenever Remco or Jonas or Roglic attacks, they're not going to have any teammates anymore with them. The only guy who can have teammates with him is Pogacar at this point.
Okay, so they might as well just stay with him. Yeah, right. That's what they're good at.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering how they might, be able to use them down the road. And another, by circumstances too, we could potentially see Matteo Jorgensen finishing a top 10 in the Tour as a domestique for Jonas.
Oh, as for now, for sure. I mean, I think he rides really well. He had an unfortunate crash on one of the first stages. Obviously, he carries we had him on the move, and we were witnessing his injuries in first person. That's so unpleasant. You're always uncomfortable. First of all, you can't sleep when you have clothes, but also the way your body needs to deal with that from within. And the energy that it needs to spend on the healing is things that you're lacking in your recovery. And then on the bike, it's hot, you're sweating, it sticks. It's a nightmare. So Matteo will definitely get better as the Tour goes on. So that's a good thing.
If you normally just listen to the show, you got to watch it on YouTube. Matteo did his interview with us just completely naked, having a bowl of ice cream or something.
I mean, yeah, okay. I think he was naked. We couldn't see it, but I think he was completely naked.
Well, he's all scarred up. He had just showered, and you don't want to throw clothing on top of that. But great sport to join our show. Was there anything else from today? I do have a couple questions. Yesterday, I did a hard solicit for questions.
I mean, just one more thing, JB. I mean, Remco Evenepoel. We've been hard on him. We've been doubting him. If you really stop and think for a moment, he's now in the club of riders who have won stages in all 3 Grand Tours. He's still only 24 years old, and today was his 56th victory as a professional. Jeez. Not being a sprinter. Yeah. That's just mind-blowing if you think about this.
Right.
And the races he's winning are big races.
He could retire today at 24, and it's an outstanding career.
Right now, there are not 5 riders in the peloton who have that palmares.
Wow. I know. And you're sitting there like, I even doubted myself today when I was watching that it was his first tour. Because it seems like he's been around for a long time, and we've seen
He has been. I mean, wow. He was. I think I don't know if it's 2019 that he started to be a pro. I think.
Now, in your opinion, is the Belgian press going to back off of him, or they want first place? That's it.
Well, first place. I mean, listen, they're not stupid. I mean, they know that Pogacar and Vingegaard are super strong, and. What did I see in between them? Today is the 26th yellow jersey of Tadej Pogacar. He just needs one more. Tomorrow he equals Jonas Vingegaard with 27 yellow jerseys each. In the last 2 years. In the last 4 years. Sorry, in the last 4 years. So if you look. So there's 21, so there's 84 yellow jerseys. They'll have 54 amongst both of them in the last 2 years.
Wow, it is amazing what we're witnessing. And then there's that old guy Roglic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit. I mean, it's a bit. I'm a bit sad because. Primoz is one of my favorite riders, and he's there trying, and I fear that it's just not gonna be. Those 2 guys just mess it up for him.
Yeah, timing. It's all timing, right?
Yeah.
And they came into the sport.
Yeah.
I have a couple of fun questions for you. These are great. Sam writes, like in hockey and teams, they have enforcers. Do tour teams have guys that are enforcers? That's from Sam. Do you know what? I don't know if you follow hockey. Do you know what he means by that?
No, I don't. I can imagine, but explain me what an enforcer is.
So in hockey, you have your darling high-priced scorers, right? That your stars. They're untouchable. You're not supposed to. It's a very physical game. You're not supposed to touch them. If somebody does, then it's usually a defenseman. They're an enforcer. They're the ones that go over and beat the shit out of them.
But like for real.
But in hockey, you actually physically fight.
Okay, yeah.
But
okay.
in cycling, have you ever seen enforcers that are, they're not going to get in a fist fight because they would get thrown out of the race. But do they go over and say, hey, watch it. I saw you bumping Tadej. Don't let it happen again.
Yeah. Every leader has 2 or 3 guys that just stay around them. Usually it's big guys because you get a lot of draft. And usually, if you have 2 guys next to you like this, as a leader of a team, people don't mess with you. They need to first come in and this, it's also physical because they're fighting 170 something guys for a bit of real estate on the road. And so, it's not called enforcers because it doesn't get physical, but it's, you have, and sometimes riders are picked or hired for that purpose. The first purpose is the draft. The first purpose is if you have a strong guy with a wide back and wide shoulders, that's the guy you want, right? Because that's the guy you want to go behind. But at the same time, if he's, listen, if not that he needs it, but if Philipsen, for example, Philipsen can fight for himself in the bunch, but if he has Mathieu van der Poel next to him in a lead out for the sprint, nobody's going to come and rub shoulders with Van der Poel.
Good point.
Going to go the other way,
Yeah.
So it's not called enforcers, but they fulfill the same function.
They clear the path too. Yeah. Good answer. Okay. Here's one more. Matthew writes a question for Johan. Would he be willing to give a brief rundown on the directors for the big name teams and also highlight directors he has great respect for that may be on a lesser known team so we can continue to keep an eye out during the race? Thank you. Big fan of the show. That's Matthew in Eagle, Colorado. Yeah.
It's difficult because I have a list here and I see that this list is not up to date. Normally there's, one director in the first car, one director in the second car. Now that has changed. The first car has 2 directors and then the second car has one director, sometimes 2. So there's minimum 4 directors at the race. For example, Visma Leasebike, I know that those guys are, so there's Frans Maassen, who's been there for a very long time, who was, a great champion himself. He won Tour de France stages. He won Amstel Gold Race. He was a classics rider. I raced with Frans. I think we're more or less the same age. The lead director there is the director in the race is Grisha Nierman. He was also an ex-cyclist on Rabobank. People will know him from the Netflix series. So those are the 2 main guys there. And then in UAE, in the car, from what I've seen, so there's one ex-cyclist. He's Slovenian, called Andrej Hauptmann. Seems to me that's a little bit the guy who's closest to Tadej Pogacar. If I'm not mistaken, it's also the guy who discovered Tadej Pogacar in one of the junior races. He was there watching a race and there was this little kid who was by himself, and people said, "Well, is he dropped?" He said, "No. He's just lapping the field." And so they seem to have this close, tight bond. Hauptmann is the lead director in the race, and then you have Mauro Gianetti, who's the general manager, and Machin. Machin is a nickname for Josian Fernandez, who's the sports manager, but who's, as far as I see, is not in the race, not in the car. Ineos Grenadiers, for example, I see it's Zach Dempster, who's new on the team, and then Xavier Zandio, Spanish guy. Surprisingly, Steve Cummings, who's the lead sports director, who we also know from the Netflix series, who's the guy who kind of manages everything a little bit between the sports directors. For some reason, he, in last instance, has been left at home. So I don't know. Something must be going on there. I don't know what, but I think it's a shame because I know Steve. He's been a cyclist on Discovery Channel. Was a great cyclist himself. I think he does a great job as the director, but for some reason, I don't know exactly what happened there. I mean, those three teams. Then at Bora, Hansgrohe, sorry, it's Rolf Aldag, the lead guy. He's been there for a while now. Also ex-cyclist. Also raced with him. He's even been on Quick Step. He's been on. I mean, he was a rider for T-Mobile in the Jan Ullrich years. He was a colleague of Jan Ullrich. I mean, those four teams are a little bit. Then you have Soudal Quickstep. We have Tom Steels, who is an ex-cyclist also, was several times Belgian champion, won several times stages in the Tour. They have Davide Bramati, who's Italian, who's been there forever. These guys are, the usual guys. They have great relationships with the cyclists. And so, I mean, yeah, I could go on, but I think those are the five main teams and their directors.
I'm just impressed that you can just pull that off the top of your head. I am. And one last thing, Ventum Trivia. We're going to give away a brand new NS1 road bike at the end of this tour. You can enter every day. I'll give you the information of where to send your entry in just a second. But first, I'm going to answer yesterday's question. What was the... Oh, wait. Okay, what was the name of the first pro team Lance and George joined? That answer was Motorola.
Motorola, yeah.
Yep. Today's question, and you'll remember this, Johan, for sure, and a lot of people won't. What was the bike brand and model that Lance rode on during his 2 time trial wins in the 1999 Tour?
I do remember.
I was saying it on the other show,
trick question.
That's a tough one because I don't think you can just Google that and find the answer. You can. The guys who have done the research, there's information out there. Yeah,
for sure. But it's a trick question. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little controversial at the time.
It was. Yeah. Let's say there were some people who were not very happy about it.
The answer.
Bike was fast. The bike was faster than the one we were supposed to use then in time trials. That's for sure.
Just go to ventumracing.com/themove. Enter your answer there every day, and that's another entry into the drawing that we'll do at the end of the tour. All right. Send any questions in for Johan. You guys sent a couple of good ones today. I mean, there are a bunch of them. I'll go through those for tomorrow too. But if you have more, send them to themove@wedo.team. Thanks, Johan. And we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks, JB.